What's up, guys? What's up, Inner Circle? Say hi.
Hi, guys. How's everyone
Good
doing
to see you
today?
guys today. What's up, Inner Circle family? Mike, you could shut that so I don't hear that. What's up, Bob and Debbie? Good to see you, Debbie and Colette and Diane and Michael. Look at all these great faces, babe.
Amazing. I love it.
And we get to see all the chat there. So you guys, your chat, we can see all of your chat, whether you're on Zoom or you're on YouTube. Hey, Inner Circle family, good to see you. This is my beautiful wife, Lisa, if you've never met before. We get so many questions. Listen, if you're a part of the Inner Circle family, and you know I talk about the Inner Circle all the time, the Inner Circle's, I think it's a decade long. Some of you have been with us that entire time. Some of you are brand new, welcome. And the whole concept of Inner Circle is we go live every month. And we talk about mindset, marketing, or momentum. And in those things, I believe those three in business and life are some of the most important things. And mindset, momentum, if we don't have relationships in our lives that are aligned, empowering, it can be like kryptonite, can it? Who in here has ever had a relationship that was in the back of your mind, you knew it was dragging you down or kept you from being the man or the woman that you were meant to be, right? So sometimes I see a Steph, I see that smile, I can tell. Carissa, I can see, we know Liz, I see it, like we know there's another level for our lives. And then in the back of your head, you're like, maybe I'm not meant to have a real relationship. Maybe my partnership, even in business, maybe I'm not meant for that. Or maybe I'm not meant to find real love. Feelings her and Lisa and I both have had at different points of our lives. I'm gonna go down a little bit so we're more even. Okay? So I just think if we're a part of Inner Circle and we're gonna be transparent, then we might as well address some of the things that I like to say go upstream, right? And literally we had 50 pages. Talay, thank you, she's on here somewhere, narrowed it down to 3. And we're gonna go over so many of your questions today, and we picked the ones that were most common. So we have lots of them. I won't even be able to get to all of them today, or we won't be able to get to all of them. But when it comes to relationships, the power of a strong relationship, and her and I get to experience this, is unlike anything you can imagine. Those of you that have had it or still have it, you know what I'm talking about. Those of you that don't, maybe we could shed some light today on some of the things we've discovered, because we've surely messed up on relationships in the past. Can we give that disclaimer?
Yes, we have. No, we're not perfect at all, and we're actually still not perfect. We're learning a lot as we go every single day, for sure.
Yeah, and we've got to learn so much in the past that we brought, luckily, the right things to this relationship. So I think today, we're gonna go over your questions. If some of the guys out there are like, man, I don't wanna do relationships, I'm a part of Inner Circle, I promise you, stick with us. There you go, that is Bob. Bob, I promise, we're gonna deliver some good stuff today, man. I promise. Those of you in the most magical relationships, support others as we share stuff, include it. Those of you that aren't in a great relationship, those of you that are looking for a relationship, I wanna tell you, don't dare give up, because there's always the opportunity for growth. There's always the opportunity for reconnection. There's always opportunity to find the right person. I think this is a great example of what we have. So anything you'd like to say before we start about relationships, about life?
No, I think the questions are so amazing, so I don't want to spoil it and talk too much about, life and relationships, because a lot of the questions, I feel like we can answer with that.
Okay, great. So Talay has helped them put them in different categories, so I'm just going to be sporadic. I figure we'll start there. Does that work for you guys if we just do some questions that you guys sent in? And then maybe if we have time at the end, if anybody wants to jump on with us, who'd like to jump on and ask Lisa or I a question? Right? See how it's only like a little bit of the people doing it now? And then once one person asks a question, then everybody raises their hand, right? They just nobody, Suzanne doesn't want to be the first person, but I know she's got a question. You know what I mean? All right. So I'm gonna let's see. I have so many here. It says, okay, here's a good one. How do I support my wife? I wish I had the names, but you'll know if this is your question. How do I support my wife in her goals and dreams as I'm building mine without neglecting her and our children? I think and there was so many under that category was, how do I start my own business and support my wife? How do I start my own business and support my husband? How do I run my company? There was so many questions about how do I be me without neglecting us, right? Mm-hmm. So if you want to go first. Go ahead.
Okay, perfect. So how does Dean support me? I feel like when he is so busy and he has so many things going, he's wearing many hats in his business and in life. I feel like when it comes to us in our relationship, he goes back to that sweet teddy bear that I met, right? I feel like for me, that's a huge support because that shows that it's our love. Aside from all the business, aside from all the crazy things that are going within his life, I feel like we still have our own little place, our own little us baby, as our friend calls our relationship, the us baby. Also, I feel like the way I support Dean and his goals is by just listening and having an open ear and just letting him tell me what he's thinking, why he's thinking, asking the right questions. I feel that is really important, especially in a relationship like ours when we're so busy with our own businesses and our family. It leaves little time for friends. So, in a normal world, you would share all this with your friends, but when you don't really have a lot of friends, right? We don't really have like a friend group that we're going out to lunch with or dinners with, right? So at the end of the day, I'm his friend, he's my friend. So I feel like I'm a big support to Dean when I'm just there to listen and to support him in whatever idea or whatever new thing he wants to share.
Yeah, well, I want to say before I share my thoughts, I want to tell you, I can't imagine what it feels like to have, I never knew what it felt like at this level, to have this much unconditional support. I feel like Lisa is my greatest cheerleader ever. Even when I screw up, even when I make bad decisions, when I'm stressed, this woman supports me, cheers me on, and she did something for me that she might not even be aware of. There's a saying I heard Tony say at a date with Destiny a decade ago. And he said, imagine if you felt love when you gave love, not just when you received it. Think about that. Imagine feeling love when you gave it. Now I'm going to go a little bit longer here and then cut me off.
That's so true. That's because that's how I feel. I when I give you the love, oh my gosh, I feel it so much more. So yeah, okay.
Yeah, and I see that in her, and it's addicting because I want to do the same thing for her. So before I answer my question here and be completely, do I have permission to be completely transparent, even a little vulnerable? I want to share something else. What if you felt love when you give love? But what if you didn't keep score? Think about that, and we'll hit that again throughout this. But what if you didn't keep score in your friendships, in your business partnership, in your love relationship? You see, my parents were married 9 times. My dad's divorced and single right now. He's dating, he's 86, he has a girlfriend. He might be watching right now, right? I've watched a lot of failed relationships. I've had my own. And can we all agree that there's a certain time when the bliss wears off and the passion wears off and it's evolving to another level, a friendship, a connection, a bond, still intimacy, still connection, but the crazy like on drugs kind of starts to fade, right? And when that starts to fade, has anybody not, I guess this question, has anybody not seen a relationship that ends up keeping score? It's like every day I'm there for him. He comes home from work, I'm there for him, doesn't even recognize that I made dinner or I had my own job and I took care of the kids and I did these 5 things. I did all these things and he comes home and talks about himself, doesn't say thank you, and then goes out and does, like, I'm using that as a silly example. But there's a time, can we all agree, and let me see if it's in the chat, can we agree that there's a time when a relationship gets tough when you start measuring, I do all this and she doesn't do that. Or I do this and he doesn't do that. And I can't believe I did this. And there's this thing that as you start keeping score, Holly, I see you shaking your head, as you start keeping score, right? Then the other person starts keeping score. And then all of a sudden there's this distance coming between you and you're like, well, if she steps up, then I'll be more romantic again. And if he tells me I look beautiful, then I'll start dressing prettier again. Whatever, I'm making crap up. But I've watched this and I've seen it in my own self. I know I've done this. And when that wedge starts, man, Colette, am I right? When that wedge starts and you're like, when is the last time he did that for me? Imagine if you didn't keep score, you felt love when you gave love, and you just went all in. Could you imagine how crazy, your husband would be if he's been neglecting, been kind of distant, working too much, forgetting, I do it sometimes, forgetting the love, the connection that you could have? Imagine if he just came home or she came home and you were just pouring on love, giving, being like the person you were in the first 60 days of your relationship. Your other half would be like, the hell's going on here? Is she gonna kill me? Like, is she setting me up for, like, all I know is sometimes when you become the person you want the other person to be.
Yes, that's huge.
It makes them shine and step up. It also can make you recognize, hey, I just gave 90 days of the best version of me and it didn't budge at all. I think we need to have a deeper talk, right? But all I know is this woman does so much for me and supports me so much that it catches me and it makes me realize I need to step up. I need to be a better man. I need to be stronger. I need to not keep score. And that's a fact. And I'll go deeper on that in a minute. But I want to share something that I think is really important. We both have businesses. Okay? There were so many questions. I'll get to them. There's so many people asking about how do you mix
Business
that?
and relationship.
We both have a business. I'll be honest. My business is 100 times bigger than Lisa's. Right?
Yes.
She's insanely successful. I'm blessed to be a little more insanely successful, right? But I'm going to be completely, this is the vulnerable part. I want to tell you what my intuition, my gut does sometimes, and I know I've done this in the past. It's like, why are you working on this little business that makes a few bucks? I pay for everything. We have plenty of money. I work my ass off. Just support me. Just cook for me, take care of me, make sure I'm loved, take care of the kids, make sure my family's safe. You have to do crap. Let me do it. I'm telling you, I'm being vulnerable to say my gut feels that way some days. Like, you're not going to be here tonight for dinner? I've just worked 20 hours straight in this challenge I was working. I just want to be home with my wife. You're going to go to the salon and worry about this little thing? Come on. I'm being honest to say I can dismiss really easy what her goals are. I really can. I don't, but I can, and I could. And it's old school thinking. It's true. But it's in there. I'm just telling you, it's in there, and I have to fight it because this woman whose parents came to America with nothing and didn't speak the language, and her father had a 7th grade education and now owns an amazing company. Her and the 5 of them have all become massively successful. She was voted the #1 hairstylist in Arizona 8 out of 10 years. She was making multiple 6 figures every single year net profit before I ever met this incredible woman. She has built a reputation, and to her, it is important. This business is a part of her life. It's her passion, and it doesn't matter if it doesn't make a nickel. If it's important to her, then I need to find a way to make it equally as important to mine. Just because mine makes more, or we have more impact, and I get to be a New York Times bestselling author and do all this cool stuff, it is easy for me to overshadow her. Just being honest. And because of the woman she is, and because I want to be a better man, I know I've done that in the past, that I know that just because the decimal points are different, just because the impact is different, it's equally as important to her. So guys, girls, I want you to hear me on this one. It is easy, and I find myself getting close to doing it still to this day. Like literally to this day. We were supposed to travel someplace, and I know I'm talking a lot about this, but I think it's important. It was literally, there's 3 pages of questions like this. It was 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, she had an event planned, and I forgot completely about her event. And I booked us on a spontaneous trip to go skiing with our kids. We've been working, and it was only like a Friday to a Sunday, and I had an event in the middle even, but I wanted to go, and I set the whole thing up, and I got the plane and the cars and the ski and rented equipment, and all of a sudden I find out she's got an event on Sunday, and I'm thinking, you know what my head went to? It's gonna be 100 people. You're gonna make a few, like I started equating how much money this event would make, and I'm like, cancel it, who gives a shit? I'll give everybody their money back, we're going skiing, I don't give a crap. Literally, I started a conversation like that with her. Catherine, I'm not making this up. I literally was just gonna say, what? It means nothing, it's insignificant. So it's not though. To her, she put her time, effort, energy, she was excited about it. And I have to fight myself. So what I want to share with you guys, you ask about your businesses and your careers. If yours is bigger, if yours makes more, if you're the dreamer and your other half is the realist, let him be real. Keep being the damn dreamer. One of you has to be a future paced person looking for bigger, taking it to another level. Like, rather than changing, support your crazy husband who thinks who wants to dot every I and cross every T and make sure everything's structured. Keep being the dreamer you are and find a way to support him or support her in a way so much that they feel guilty not supporting you back. You like that one, Helen? This woman does so much for me that I feel guilty not giving her that much support. Anyway, anything to share on that?
Yes, I feel like with this conversation too, it all stems from the very, very beginnings, right? I feel like a man is meant to have this certain role, and that is a natural instinct that a man has, right? And also, for a woman, I love working my butt off and then coming home and making dinner or preparing something or tidying up the house, because that is my instinct. That's my role of being a woman. And so I think that's completely normal to have these feelings, but when you just talk it out and when you kind of learn how to laugh about it, and still cheer each other on. I know my ideas and sometimes my little business ventures are very small compared to what Dean's doing, but it lights up my world. It makes me feel like I have my own kind of significance, which I think it's important to have. And so whether you are making way more money than your husband, I feel like you still, this is my opinion. I'm old school though. Also, my parents are very old school and I was raised that way and I'm still that way and I'm proud to be old school. I still feel, you still have to give your man his place, and the men have to give their women their place. So, yeah.
Yeah, the respect.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. But when you say place, like the respect, and here's the other thing I like. What I love about you, and here's something I think. If you hear Lisa say I'm old school, she does. When we first got together, and literally I was in the other room ironing my shirt. We were going to like a wedding or something. And I realized my shirt was, anybody ever have like dry cleaning, but you had it in the closet too long and it gets the creases in the front? You know what I mean? The shirt's been in the tight closet too long. You know exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm in the other room ironing my shirt. This is a woman who runs her own business, does her own thing. I didn't get married to have someone to be my maid. You know what I mean? I'm literally ironing my shirt. Do you remember? She walks in. She's like, "What the hell are you doing?" I'm like, "What? Am I
oh my gosh! I felt
am I
embarrassed
ironing
watching
this wrong?" And she's like, "No, I'm your wife. That's my job." Now, I just want to share that. That might seem old school to some of you, but that's her, and I love that about her. And we've found ways to she loves to take care of me, but that just makes it so I want to do more for her. But if you're not that way, if it's a different feel, it's like we just all have to respect each other for where we are, not trying to change it, right? I hit the jackpot. I go to change my son, who's 20, when he was a year old and his diaper was like full, I go to change it. She's like, "No, I got that." I'm like, I'm not going to argue here. Like, okay, right? It doesn't mean, but that's our gig. Right? And I have to find a way to give that back to her in her own way. You know what I'm saying, Carol? I see you shaking your head, right? Okay. That was a long answer, but there were so many questions on that part. And if you have any other further questions on that, put it in the chat. Mike, if you guys could watch, if we get time, we'll...
My man can do his own ironing, huh?
Yeah, so exactly. Exactly. Some of you were like, let that man iron. I get it. But do you know how lucky I am? Here's the funny part. I'll share one more thing. Her parents came from Mexico, and they are the greatest family I've ever met in my life. True story. They are literally the greatest family I've ever met. They're on a family chat. They put me on it, and 24 hours later, I'm like, please take me off that chat. I never knew family could talk that many times throughout the day. It doesn't even seem possible. I'm like, I can't be in it. It's like, mine's about business. Like, dang, it's like, oh, that's Lisa and her family. Oh, that's Lisa. Oh, that's Lisa. Oh, most amazing family in the world. Lisa was the first child. They brought her up old school Mexican. Her mom is a worker too, runs their business. But still, her job was taking care of the kids, taking care of the house. I mean, superwoman. just super women, taking care of the house, iron, everything.
Yes.
And her dad's a worker too, but she's old school. So she got brought up that way. They have 5 kids. Your youngest sister is amazing. She's an incredible woman, but completely opposite. She's like, I will never cook. I don't iron. I'm going to marry a man that takes me to dinner or cooks himself. I will never iron her damn shirt. Like, her younger sister watches what she does for me like, the hell are you doing?
But wait.
Yeah, I know.
Yes.
But she's evolved a little bit. She met the right man, and she's sending us pictures of her cooking.
Yeah, no, that's actually a great example, because sometimes we have these ideas and these thoughts like, oh, I will never do this for someone. I'll never do this for this guy or this girl, and they'll do it for me. But then life hits you in the butt sometimes, and you have to watch what you say, because now, for instance, she is turning around and it's like, oh, Lisa, how do you make this? And how do I prepare this dinner that you make that I love so much? And she's sending us pictures of her baking, because she's in a relationship now and she really likes this guy, and he stands out from the rest. So it's funny how that happens.
Yeah. All right, I'll go to another question. But again, know that even though that was one question, I incorporated about 10 of them in there. Okay, for me, it's about having strong family unit. As my girls grow up and start mixing with their friends, they seem influenced, all right, there's 2 in a row, seem influenced often in ways that don't match our family values. I can appreciate that. Do you have any advice to help them find their way while keeping close connection with us? I know I am going through this at this very second, so I can't wait to answer.
Yes.
That's why I started that one. But I'd love to hear how your family, when you were growing up and you guys were in teenage years, you were raised different than your sister.
Yes,
Your sister had all the freedom in the world. Lisa was locked down. So big transition over 5 kids. But what was the ways your friends could easily influence you? And I remember when you said that there was different directions you could have taken. What would be your answer? Do you have any advice to help them find their way while keeping connected with their parents?
Yes, definitely. So just a really quick story. When I was in, let's say, high school, I wanted to do my thing with my friends and hang out with the cool kids, because I wasn't cool, so I wanted to be like them and I wanted to do what they were doing. And my parents were very strict and didn't let me go out, and had me, had very strict rules, had me clean the entire house so I could go out on one day on the weekend till 9 p.m. And they never budged. It was like that all the time. There was no exceptions. But at the end of the day, I would always say, why can I go do that? Why can I spend the night at my friend's house? I'm in high school. Why can't I go to a party until midnight? My dad always said, there's nothing good that happens after midnight. Nothing good happens ever after, I think, like 10 o'clock. But then he said, like, after midnight, which is so true. I mean, I think we all know as we got older, nothing good happens after that. And then also, they always said, everything will happen at its own time. So I loved that part of it, that I just knew that, Lisa, relax. Don't try to hurry your life up. Like, everything's gonna happen and when it's supposed to happen. And another thing that really, really I think is important to talk to with your kids is be their best friend, but they don't want a best friend. They want a parent figure. They want someone that is security, that's a safety net. That my dad would always say, I don't care what situation you're in, call me. And, you say that to Bree too. I don't care what situation you're in, call me, I'll go pick you up. I'll pretend like nothing happened, whatever. I'll never judge you. Just make sure you always call me. And I always felt really close to my siblings, even though I always wanted to have my own friends. My parents always said, your siblings are your best friends. Our family is here forever. Your friends will come and go. So if there was like my aunt's birthday party and I wanted to go to my friends to the high school football game, but my mom said, no, it's your aunt's birthday party. I had to go to my aunt's birthday party. She said, it's family. And they made me do it. And I think that is what made me close to my family, because if I had my way, I would have had my own life with my friends. I'd done done whatever I wanted to do. And I think that, and it's proven, every adolescent needs structure, and they crave that structure and some rules. I know now everything's very open and everyone does what they want, but I feel like there's a really beautiful thing about having old-fashioned ways.
I love that. So I'm in the middle of this right now. My son's 13, my daughter's 15. I have aliens living in my house, right? No, they're awesome. But let me tell you how I learned this from my grandmother. My grandmother, her mom died when she was in 7th grade, and her dad died when she was in 9th grade. She had 5 brothers and sisters. She quit 9th grade and raised all of them, right? Different worlds today. My great-grandfather came from Italy. He started as a waiter, then he went to a manager, then he opened up his own restaurant. It was called Tony's Pasta House. And it was this little town in upstate New York. He owned Tony's Pasta House, and he saved every bit of cash he made. When he died, when my grandmother was in 9th grade, he had enough money hidden away in the basement and in the bank to give my grandmother enough money to raise the rest of the children. Pretty amazing story, but she quit 9th grade. My daughter's in 9th grade. I couldn't picture her raising 5 children, but she did. And then by the time those kids were out, my mom was born, and then I was born, and then she raised me. My parents split when I was 3, and I spent most of my childhood with my grandmother. And I think I picked up a lot of these things from my grandmother. She talked to me as an adult all the time. And I don't want to use the same words, but the philosophy was, I'm going to be transparent with you guys. When I was in 8th grade, a friend of mine stole a bag of pot, marijuana, from his mom, brought it to school, put it in my duffel bag. There was no book packs back then. My kids make fun of me. It was a book bag. And I'd be honest with you, if I smoked pot, I would tell you. I had never smoked it in my life. But I took this bag home. I'm like, what the hell? I was like scared to death because he put it in my bag. He's like, I can't keep it. And it was like this big old bag of pot. I never even seen it before. And I am not innocent. I'm not saying I haven't tried things, but this was a time I was. So I come home, I stick it inside one of my shoes. Forgot about it. I don't know, 3 months later, 6 months later, I come home from school. I live with my grandmother, and I walk in, and this bag of pot is on the kitchen table. I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. So my grandmother, this will give you an example of how she parented. She's like, hey, I was throwing away some old shoes today. I found that in your closet. And I'm just like, like ready to die, right? Because the last thing I want to do is disappoint my grandmother. And she's like, hey, here's what I know. She didn't ask me if I smoked it. She didn't ask me if it was mine. You know what she said to me? She's like, you should do a little research. She goes, in my opinion, I've never met anybody that does drugs and has a good life. She's like, but you should do. If you find a lot of people that smoke pot and maybe do cocaine or heroin and their lives are absolutely amazing, then you should probably smoke pot, do heroin and cocaine. She's like, but I've never seen it. So maybe you should just look at it that way. And then I said, okay. And I'm like standing there and she handed me the bag. She goes, oh, here, this was yours. Dinner will be ready in a few minutes. I walked upstairs like, what the, like, I remember like dumping it in the garbage, like, no, people have shitty lives when they do this stuff, right? It was such a simple lesson that it took a woman who had been raising children since she was 12 years old to have just so much wisdom. She had an 8th grade education, and how cool was that? Who knows if I might freak out. So I learned these little lessons from her, and the reason I'm saying this is, let's get back to how I raise my children right now. I'm really proud of my daughter and my son on their values. And it's always been a really important thing to me. And my grandmother's biggest thing to me was trust. If I always told her the truth, didn't matter what it was, if we were on the same page. She never gave me a curfew. She let me use her car. Anything I wanted to do, I did because I told her the truth about everything. But she used to tell me if I lied to her once, she doesn't know if she could give me that freedom. And I've been telling my kids that since they were like 5. Like, let's let trust be our foundation, right? I'm going to tell you 3 things. Trust is a big one. And I'd say you're not going to have the curfew other girls are going to have when you're a teenager. You're not going to have a crazy father. As long as I can trust you, we can make some really great decisions. That's number 1. Number 2, it's a fact that the frontal cortex of a teenager is not developed yet. They can't forecast regret. They don't know what's the repercussions of shitty decisions, right? They can't see that far in advance. It's like, oh yeah, I should drink a half a gallon of vodka. And this boy only wants to go in the room to kiss, I swear to God. Like, they don't see the repercussions of what could happen yet, right? And so when you realize that, then how do we help our kids see delayed gratification? Listen, one of the fundamental foundations for success in life is delayed gratification. What did her dad teach her? all in your own time. Like, delay the gratification. It'll be great to make love to someone who's going to be your husband or your wife or someone that you really love, not the boy that you met 8 minutes earlier because you had 4 drinks, right? Like, we all make mistakes. I'm absolutely at the top of that list of the mistake maker, right? But sometimes your kids can't see the future, and you do. We are different ages. I'm 53. I've been through hell and back, and I've seen it all. I can forecast the future. I can see the world is going. A 15-year-old, a 13-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 16-year-old, 18-year-old, they can't see the negative future ahead of them. So I want to tell you what I've shared with my children, and I'm not exaggerating. I've nailed a lot of them. Like, a friend that makes a decision, I use that example because a friend of hers made a decision. My daughter made a decision not to drink at all because some of her friends are already. And that was, I'm going to say one more thing. I share this a lot with you guys. Who we are when no one's watching is really who we are. And I tell my daughter that all the time because I can't see if she watches porn on her phone or drinks at a party. I'm not going to see that, but she will, and she'll know. So I've inserted into her nonstop. You get to be whoever you want. But remember, even if you show me you're perfect and Dad, I don't do anything wrong and I would never drink and I'd never kiss a boy yet, you could put the biggest show on in the world and I'll believe pretty much anything you tell me because you're my daughter and I'm your daddy's little girl. But you know who you are when no one's around. When it's you and God and no one else around, you get to look in the mirror and decide if you like the person you are. So if I've obsessed on telling her who she really is not who she presents to me, not who she presents to family and friends. It's who she is when she's alone and gets to do what she wants. That's who you are. So who you are when no one's watching is who really you are. So I've been pounding that into her head. The last thing I want to tell you, I hope this is not going too, this is just, I just happen to be in this place with my children. I'm going to tell you a really serious story that I told my daughter, my hand to God. I told her this story this morning, as I do every day. I give her one lesson a day, whether she likes it or not. And I have a morning routine with my kids. This morning at 6:45, I was at the kitchen counter making her lunch. And she's sitting across, so picture my daughter, who's 15, same height as me. Today, she is starting on her high school team as the first game of the year. So she's gonna be the starting pitcher for her high school team. I'm so proud of her. That's today at 4 o'clock. I will be there. Check out Instagram. I'll probably post a picture, even though she'll be mad at me. But so we're sitting across from each other. And I told her a story today, because I tell her stories all the time about you can't see the negative impact, the repercussions. It's just, you're not designed there. And it's okay. But you can, if you force yourself to see it, if you force yourself to see where things could go, I promise you, you'll make better decisions. So I said this because tonight when she comes home after her game, we have a golf cart. And truth be told, she's 15 and I let her take the golf cart around the neighborhood. She takes her friends, she goes sees her friends. She doesn't have her license yet. I do it. Sorry. If there's any cops on, please don't get me in trouble. But I let her do it. So tonight her friends are coming. I'm like, hey, if you're gonna have friends in that golf cart, you know, next level, don't go on any main roads, all back roads. Look, stop, be obsessive. If you hurt one of your friends, it would be horrible. I don't want you to get hurt, but you wouldn't want to hurt anybody. And she's like, I know, Dad. And I told this, I'm gonna tell you a story. This is the stories I've told her since she was 10. I told her a true story. I had a little cousin. It's a little sad, but I'm gonna be honest. This swear my hand to God right now. This is the story I told my daughter this morning. I had a cousin. He was 4 years younger than me. I was probably 21. When he was 16, he had his girlfriend in his car and driving too fast on a back road, hit a wet patch. Car flipped over, his girlfriend died. He lived really beat up, broken legs, pins, really, really sad thing for our whole town. He got better, and the family of the girl that died, the older brother, as we can all appreciate, would terrorize my cousin whenever he saw him. He beat him up one day, and when I was 22, he was 18, he worked for me. He went home and shot himself. So 17, I'm telling you a really sad story. This is horrible. 18 years old, I think he was 18 at the time. He worked for me, my little cousin Frankie. He takes his stepdad's gun and shoots himself. He lived 2 days and passed away. And just a horrific story. I haven't thought about it in 20 years. And I told her this story this morning and I said, here's what I want to share with you, Bree. It's hard for you to see the repercussions of your actions at this age, but let me just give you a little story. This beautiful young kid at 17 years old with his beautiful girlfriend, having the time of his life, and in a moment, driving too fast, and he was. Driving too fast, he made a bad decision. But where did that lead? It ended a life. The parents of that girl will never be the same. Then his life was never the same. When he took his own life, his mother had a nervous breakdown and she's never been the same. I saw her 5 years ago and still a glassy look of barely recognizing me. Her husband took care of her for all these years after that happened. The parents of the girl who lost her life, the kid who beat Frank up has never been the same because he beat this guy up and then he went and killed himself. I'm telling you a really serious story that maybe is too heavy, and I'm sorry if I am. Heartbreaking story that happened 30 years ago, right? It's 30 years ago. But I shared with my daughter, and I literally put on a piece of paper that one act led to so many disastrous outcomes for so many people. I said, this is 30 years later. When I tell you this story, Bree, I want to tell you I still feel the pangs of guilt because he worked for me. Why didn't I help him more? Why didn't I see the signs that he was going through a tough time? Why wasn't I emotionally intelligent enough at the time to get him a counselor or say something to his family? I saw that some days he would drink a lot at 19 years old to forget the pain of what he did. Why didn't I help? I still have pangs, and this is not about me in any way, but I'm a distant cousin of his. Imagine his wife is, so I'm sorry I got so serious on telling you something. The only reason is because it was on my heart. I shared it this morning. I'm just being honest. I tell my daughter stories on how one decision. I remember a girl in high school got really drunk in 9th grade. She made a really bad decision at a party with a bunch of boys at once. It ruined her entire high school year. She was on antidepressants, and I went down her path of where she is today. And what a sweet girl she was, and where she is today. And I said, she never would have known that decision when no one was watching, that decision that her friends egged her on to do, could lead to so much because your frontal lobe is not, I said your frontal lobe is not mature enough yet. You can't envision that much shit can happen, but I'm asking you to push yourself to see the future. And I've been telling her stories like that for a decade, 5 years. So maybe that's too heavy, maybe that's a lot, guys, but you want to know my personal life, you just got more about my personal life than I've ever shared publicly. Any comments on that?
No, just about the lessons. I love the lessons. Ever since I met you, you've been doing that with both the kids, and I think it's a beautiful thing. I actually told Dean, I'm like, can you write them down somewhere? Can you like make a video so I can, we can keep passing them on. So I think they're great.
Okay, so we can all give a little good thought to Frank up in heaven. So yes. I haven't thought of him in 30 years, so I was glad to have that little lesson for my daughter today. Okay, here's another one. How can you have a healthy, loving, and connected relationship when there is no solid frame of reference for one, only reference point of parents' dysfunctional and codependent marriage?
You want me to start?
Yes.
Okay, so I think we're all wired to kind of repeat the same cycles, and I am the first person to tell you that you can definitely not lead in the same cycle. I always, in my personal way of thinking, I like to not be the average person. I like to be the one that's different, not the statistic. For instance, my dad is the most loving, my mom and dad, but my dad is so loving and huggy and kissy, and we're all like jump on him and kiss him and all that. But my dad's dad never once gave him a hug, a kiss. He, abused my grandma. I love my grandpa. He's passed now, but I don't, that's just his way of thinking. That's the way he was. But anyhow, he just never showed love. And so my dad didn't repeat the cycle, and he completely said, I will never be like my dad. I will be the complete opposite. And so he was. And so that's how we are as well. I think that shouldn't cripple you or hold you down to, if you have that past, let it be, face it. And I don't know, I think that you definitely could make that your strong point and say, because of that, I'm not going to have this relationship like my parents did, or I'm not going to treat someone like like that, because I know that there's a better way.
I love that. And so I want to tell you, my parents were married 9 times. I understand dysfunction in a big way. And I hated the way my father was. He might even be watching today. I hated the way my father was in relationships, and we're open about it. And he's a completely different human now, but he didn't see his father was an abusive, physically abusive man who beat all his kids, beat his wife, and my dad didn't ever beat anybody, but he took those emotional scars and presented it in his own way as relationships. And I remember not liking the way my dad was in a relationship, and I didn't like his temper and his anger and all those things. But damn, if you wouldn't know it, I bet you in my 20s, I followed some of that same crap. And it's like, okay, it's like, it wasn't working for him. Why the hell would it work for me, right? Mm-hmm. So what I want to share with you, it's not easy. But so many of you here are in the self-education industry, right? Raise your hand if you're in it, gonna be in it, gonna launch in it, gonna have a product, digital product, right? This is our world, guys. When I even went through it, when I went through a divorce, okay, and I'm in this world, what I did was I got a love coach, and I'm not talking about like how to find love or how to meet, like how to love yourself, how to understand love. Like what the heck does love even mean? What's the definition of love? How do I experience more of it? How do I get rid of this shell? How do I got a love coach to help me be a better version of myself, right? I also read countless books on relationship. I also found, and I bet you I interviewed at least 10 couples of people that had real connected, bonded, long-term relationships that were still holding hands and sitting next to each other and being flirty at 65 or 42. So I just did what we do for a living, guys. Most of us, 85% of you here are in our space. Find someone who's already had a great relationship and figure out how the hell they did it, and force yourself to go against what feels intuitive to you. Listen, some of the things I learned were like, my dad would like be frightened by it because it's complete opposite. But it didn't work for my grandparents. They got divorced. My dad's parents got divorced after he beat her for so many years. She finally left him. My dad's been married 4 or 5 times, and he's single right now. If I do what they do, I'm going to get what they have. Simple as that. I knew I did this really well because my parents financially never had money. I didn't want to follow their footsteps, so I got new success habits. That's why I wrote the damn book, Success Habits, when it comes to business. But I better get into some new success habits when it comes to a relationship. And what I realized is I can't get a woman like this. Can we give it up for this amazing woman? I don't get a great woman like this by being lucky. And I surely don't want to have a relationship because I got a few dollars. You get a woman like this because I had to be a better version of me. This isn't about finding a woman to make me whole. I had to become whole. I had to be a better version. I had to let go of old shit. I needed to be a better man. I needed to figure out these things that I carried with my past and frickin' get rid of them and create new habits. How do we do it? We're in this space, guys. Find somebody that's got an amazing relationship, that has a relationship that you want, whether it's starting one, scaling one, reconnecting, and finding intimacy again. Find somebody who's done it, they're really good at it, and learn from them. Cut a check to figure it out. Get in their group, buy their course, go on mastermind.com, find one, right? I really did exactly what we teach. I had a love coach, I went through courses, I interviewed people, had a mentor, and by the time we met, I have to be honest, I was a different man in this relationship than I've ever been in my whole life. And look what it got me. And we still use these things and find a way to go through all the craziness of life and still find a way to connect and you know, let this relationship evolve. Mm-hmm. So that's that one. Man, we got so many. Okay, I'm gonna read this one. Here's one. I wanna understand more about love. What does love mean to you, and is love enough for a relationship to grow and thrive? I'll ask you that. What's love mean to you?
Oh gosh, so many things. For me, love is when I feel understood, when I feel like someone has my back, when I feel the trust. I think and that also goes hand in hand with your family, right? So for me, like my unconditional love is my family. For my love for him is unconditional. Same thing. He has my back. He respects me. I trust him. He trusts me. And you know, but besides all those fundamental baselines of relationship, what is it like?
Relationship equity?
Like must, you know, like must. I feel like also we, you know, try to keep it fun and silly and flirty and for me, just, you know, just cute. And I think that is love, where I wake up thinking of him, I go to sleep thinking of him. And same with my family. There's no one more important. You just heard it from him. The chat goes off all day long. My family, him, the love is an unconditional thing for me. Mm-hmm.
Brooke. That's funny.
Hey.
Here's what I want to say. The other thing too is, it's funny you say that, because I literally was going to say keeping passion and intimacy is a really important thing, because
Yes.
tell me, with kids and businesses and two businesses and life, that intimacy is easy to let fade away. That level of connection. You can grow to be really good friends, but you still have to have that connection of, you know, your other half, right? Whether it's a man and woman, woman and woman, man and man.
Admiration.
You still have to have that
Yes.
connection, right? And that's an easy thing to lose. And I have to tell you, I love the fact, I'm addicted to the fact that after 5 years of us being together, I know it's only 5 years, right? Some of you have been in a relationship much longer. But after 5 years of relationship and having a child, and hopefully more, and having two older, your bonus children, my older children that are with us so much, it's easy to get lost. Just being honest with you.
And
Even
the
if you work out-
businesses.
And the businesses.
Yep.
I happen to have 13 of them, but you know, they're my children as well. Yes. You're all my children as well. It's easy to get lost, but I have to tell you, when I walk in a room still, 5 years later, the way this woman looks at me, and like she makes it a point to make me the most important person in the room.
Because you are.
And thank you. But it's true. I walk in a room and she looks at me like
Like
something.
I want to undress him with my eyes, pretty much. That's what he's trying to say.
Yeah. And I have to tell you, like, and I'll be like, I must have given her, like, I must have put some pixie dust or something, because the way she makes me feel that way. So in return, I want to feel connected. I want to do the things that a man can do. If I know she loves certainty, I know she wants to be respected. I know she wants to trust me. I know this is her love language. Trust is a big thing. I want her to know that she could look in my phone, she could look in my DMs. She has access to all of my accounts. I don't know, she might be in there stalking all of them. I don't know, she might see all your comments or see none of them. But I want her to know, because trust is so important to her, I want her to know that I'm the man in front of her, I'm the same man when no one's around. I want her to know that and feel that she knows that I'm doing the things that makes her feel certain. Because let me tell you something. I'm just telling you, I'm going to be completely transparent. I have not been a perfect in relationships in the past. I'm just going to say it like it is, for a lot of different reasons. But I want to tell you, the way this woman desires trust, like she gives me all of her. Her heart is completely open. If this relationship didn't work out, both of us would be completely crippled. We didn't hold back on this one. There's no holding back. You tell me that all the time. But I want to tell you something. If just one time she logged into my email or my text or a DM and saw that someone hit me up and I was like, hey, if you're in town, maybe we should grab coffee. If that happened once, I'd walk in a room and not get that look. Mm-hmm. And I know that. And I know how important that is to her, so I'm gonna protect that shit. I never wanna walk in a room and that woman not look at me that way. So whatever it takes for me to do, guys, girls, in your relationship, whatever it takes for your woman, your man, your other half to look in you that way, man, fill that shit up, because there's nothing better. To be 5 years in and still this is the only woman I'm attracted to that I wanna be around, I'll be honest with you, I never had that experience. It's because we messed up in the past. It's because we figured out what went wrong. It's because we both had coaches. We both read books. We both interviewed people. She went through the same thing in her life, right? So I just want to tell you, one part of that is keeping intimacy. The other part, I'm going to go back to what I said earlier, is keeping score. This is Tony's, I learned this from Tony, so I'm not going to try to reiterate what he says because he's the master at it. But there's a time where we need a masculine and feminine energy in a relationship. Even if your partner is the same sex, there's somebody a little more masculine, a little more feminine, right? And sometimes when you keep score, one person can dominate, right? You'll see that in a relationship sometimes because someone messed up and the other one is kind of like the leader. And have you ever been in a relationship where one feels like the leader and not, and still been physically attracted to the other person? Are you attracted to another person when they dominate your decisions or tell you what you should do? Or right? Look at Rain and everybody, CJ, I see you, Monica, shaking your head, right? When one person, because maybe you messed up or you think you messed up or the other person's keeping score and one person is dominant, do you want to make love to him or love to her when someone else is so dominant? You got to remember that, guys. And so I don't want to reiterate what Tony says, but we must be aware of that. We must be aware of feminine energy, masculine energy. Sometimes roles reverse because one person messed up. You got to evaluate that, because if you stripped it all down and you went back to the first 60 days that you were together, would any of that shit been in play? Right? You were fun, you were flirty, you wanted to explore, right? Sometimes, and again, I'll just finish it with a Tony saying, if you treated the end of the relationship like the beginning, maybe there would be no end. And I think that's a great sign, or a great example. All right.
I love that. That's so great.
Okay, this is a longer one. If you could project your relationship, it's a longer one, but I want to get as many of these as I can. If you could project your relationship into the future, say 30 years from now, and the kids were all grown up and living their own lives, you've been a married couple for a long time, what do you think worked to keep you together through the decades, staying strong in your love through whatever trials and tribulations that may have come your way? Of course, I sincerely hope you'll be free. Yeah, okay. That was just right. So if we were going to project 20, 30 years, in 30 years, I'll be 83. So hopefully you still love me that way.
I'll love you more.
Okay. You've been married. What would you think would keep you together after the children are gone and it's just us?
I think going back to your, like adolescent ways of being silly, fun, cute, trying new things together. You're at a whole another stage in your life, a whole another chapter. I feel like, trying new things and being open-minded. I think that is exciting, and I look forward to that, because at the end of the day, when our kids are gone, the most important person in my life is my husband. And so I want to, if we're in a whole another phase and we're wiser and we have grown into liking, books on Genghis Khan instead of, whatever we did when we were in our 40s, I feel like that is definitely something that's exciting and that I look forward to, actually. Yeah. It's not a scary time. So many people get really nervous. I have a lot of friends that are significantly older than me, and they have kids that are out of the house now and actually are about to be, and they dread it. They're nervous because they're nervous of what's going to happen between their spouse and them. But instead of being nervous, I feel like just get excited about it and change your mindset. Yeah,
no, that's great advice. And I think Lisa just said it. I think it's so easy. Can we be honest? It's so easy to get wrapped into being a parent and forget to be a significant other, right? It's so easy. I love being a dad. It's insane how much I love being a dad. Today, I will be way more nervous than my daughter sitting in the stands today watching her pitch her first high school game. I literally might throw up behind the bleachers before I sit down. I love being a dad more than anything. And the truth is, deep down, the thought of my daughter moving out and going to college someday or whatever her next evolution of life is, I'm not like, yay! But I feel blessed that we're working on us as the first and priority in our home, because we keep us strong. We'll find another evolution. We'll find another journey. The other day, no exaggeration, my wife wants to have 3 more children. My clock is ticking. I don't have time for 3 more children, okay? But I'm sure we're going to have a couple more children. So she was like, I wonder what empty nest will feel like. I'm like, empty nest for me, babe, it's like 75. So pretty much there'll be no empty nest, right? But I look forward to it because we work on putting ourselves first. And just like your business, listen, so many of you here, thank you for having the faith in Tony and myself. So many of you here because you decided to go into the self-education industry. Isn't it scary to start something new, right? But we can learn. You're learning from Tony and I. Doesn't that help, learning from Tony and I? Does it help being a part of a community like this? So when it's time to transition, learn from people that have already had children that left and found a new way to regain intimacy, regain connection, to explore new things. Is it scary? Hell yes. But why not find a way to be scary together, to be innovative together, to explore together, how to find passion again at 60? I don't know what it is, but I think if you can find a way to do it together, if you can find a way to bring it together, I think it could be magical. And here's some of the last things I want to share. Life is hard. That's a fact. And there's transitions for all of us. There's struggles for all of us. But if there's a way that you can do it together, I know so many of you are on this journey to be in the self-education industry, and your other half thinks you're probably crazy. I always share, if there's a way where you can allow your other half to see through your lens, to see what your dreams are, to see what your goals are, and really understand at your heart, there's a way, and I don't know the exact way, but there's a way to crack that, right? There's a way to break that I can't, why are you trying this? Or why is this? And I have to tell you, the last thing I'll share here is one of the top, if you see this page, all of these questions are about, you guys are both busy. What's the number way to keep your connection? How do you keep your relationship strong when one partner is always busy or in committees? How do you work together as parents and couples and entrepreneurs still want to do your own thing? How do you have boundaries in your family when you guys are working together? So many of those kind of questions come in. I want to give a blanket answer that I know helps us. What helps us is I'm genuinely interested in what excites her, and she is genuinely interested in what excites me. And the fact of the matter is, I'll be really honest with you guys, my whole life is my wife, my children, and my business. I love what I do. I get to serve you guys, whether it's in mastermind.com or Project Next or Project Next Level or being a part of this family or this inner circle 10 years. I'll be honest with you, this excites me. Right? My business excites me. Coming up with the next book I'm going to write, or coming up with the next project I'm going to launch, or we got Impact Accelerator Live next weekend. All week I'm going to be obsessing on my agenda there. She knows how much it means to me. So she doesn't say, oh God, are you working on that again? She says, oh my God, babe, what are you going to teach day one of Impact Accelerator Live? I don't know if she really cares. Can I be honest? Maybe she doesn't give two shits. But she makes me feel like it's important to her, and I'll be like, oh my God, I'm gonna start with this, and I'm gonna go with this. And she's like, you've never taught that before. I'm like, oh my God, you know? I never taught that before. So she'll make me feel, and I think she does it genuinely, but she makes me feel it's important. And I wanna give this to you. Make what your spouse does important, even if they don't support you right now.
Wow, yes.
Make them feel it. Make her feel it. Get re-excited, like, oh my God, how was work today? If you haven't asked your spouse or your significant other how their day was and what really happened, they might just go, I was good. Don't settle for good. Like, no, don't just tell me good. I do this to my kids. Who in here had teenage kids and when you asked them how their day was, what is their answer?
Good.
It was good. Do I settle with that?
No.
Never. I'm like, what was good about it? What happened in first period? Who'd you sit with at lunch today? Did you play basketball? My son, I'll say, did you play basketball? No. Play baseball? Yeah. Did you get up? Yeah, I got a hit. Did you hit it far? Then all of a sudden, yeah, I hit this one far. Oh my God, I hit it so far. He jumped, he tripped, and all of a sudden, but it took like 10 different times. So if your significant other comes home and you say, how was your day? And they go, good. Don't settle for good. What was good about it? Did you do lunch? Did you have a new project? Did you solve something? What was good? Anybody excited? Any gossip? Sometimes, you know what I'll do with my daughter? I'll try 3 or 4 times. You know what'll always get her? Give me some gossip going on in school. Yeah. Do I do that to her? And like, give me some gossip.
And that's when
she'll be like,
up.
oh my God, this one girl, oh my God, there was a picture, it went viral around school. I'm like, show me the picture. She's like, no, Dad, that's creepy. I'm like, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't know. Like, just try. So I'm gonna tell you, instead of looking for your spouse to support you on the level you want, what if today you decided over the next 30 days,
lead by example,
you were just gonna do it the other way and not expect anything in return? Give it a shot.
Yep.
Guys, this has been amazing. Any last words?
You know, something just popped in my head just now, and Dean says it all the time, so it's nothing that comes from me, but he says if you're not climbing, you're sliding, and I love that, because that does apply to everything, even our relationship, you know, and even for the people that are having their kids, you know, out of their homes and now they're alone with their spouse, like, think of ways to, you know, do just that, climb in your relationship. Yep. And that's it.
All right. Well, babe, thank you for being here
and
today.
thank you guys for being here and giving me your time of day. And I really appreciate you guys, all of you.
Who wants to put it in the chat if you'd like us to do this again? Look at all this beautiful chat. Okay, guys, that's our inner circle for this month. Thank you for spending this time with us. Today, as I was walking out here, Tanner on my team, some of you know Tanner, he's my nephew and also helps run our companies, and he's so awesome. And I said, what's a call to action? What's something you guys could do over the next month? So many of you are coming to Impact Accelerator Live. Can't wait to see it. It's going to be absolutely amazing. If you want more information on that, put me in the chat. Most of you know, so I'm not even going to give you a URL or anything. But if you don't have a ticket for next weekend, you can write me and somebody in the team will reach out to you. But if you guys forgot or you've never done it, we have a 30-day free challenge. It's not kind of free. It's completely free, called The Better Life. Who's ever done? Anybody ever do The Better Life Challenge? Look at Carol, right? Carissa. It is Colette. It is an awesome challenge. You got the Better Life Journal, Laura. Everybody should have that as well. But the Better Life, write this down, thebetterlife.com. I created this. You'll see I was probably 5 years younger. I see Patricia. She's got the Better Life Journal. Gloria, I see you. That's my mom's name too, Gloria. Yay. Great name. Thebetterlife.com. Rain, I see you. You got the journal. The Better Life is something I came up with, is how could you, in like 3 minutes a day. The videos are like 3 minutes long, and it's just a tiny little habit that you could insert in your life over 30 days. The truth is, I came up with this idea about 5 years ago. I laid the whole thing out. I hired a technology company to help me. I filmed all these little 3-minute videos. So you'll see, I'm 5 years younger when we did it, but people going through, it's still as relevant today as any day. It's these tiny little shifts. It is a fun challenge. Again, it's not kind of free. You don't have to pay anything. Just go to thebetterlife.com. If you haven't taken it, it's fun. The technology still seems great. It pops up, it gives you a reminder every day. You watch this 3-minute video that I did, and then it challenges you to do something that day. And here's what I hope. Out of the 30 different little subtle shifts, if 3 or 4 stick, fantastic. I think it's pretty amazing. So The Better Life, thebetterlife.com, it's pretty cool. And Inner Circle family, if you're coming to Impact Accelerator Live, I'll see you there. If not, I'll see you right here next month. Appreciate you guys.
Bye. Thank you, guys.
This is where the beat goes down. Feel the music on the stereo.